Welcome to the latest edition of the Weekly Brief. I am Robbie Feinberg. I am the Director of Communications and Government Relations for the Maine School Management Association, your representative in Augusta. And I come to you. This is the week of April 26th. And on Wednesday, the legislature wrapped up all of its work for the 2026 legislative session. They have finally completed all that work. They've got the vetoes. All of that has been put through. So I am hoping to be able to provide you with information on what bills actually passed, what bills didn't pass, and what we can kind of expect most likely in the years ahead. So let's get going. So to start, I want to begin with the supplemental budget. This is LD 2212 if you want to look for that online. We've talked about this over the course of the legislative session, but I did want to give an overview as there were a lot of different parts of this supplemental budget that were impactful for education and are going to make some differences in terms of what things mean for schools in the years ahead. So I wanted to initially begin with the state continuing to meet its 55% funding obligation. The legislature and the governor provided an additional $46 million this year in additional state funding to ensure that they continue to meet that obligation. This is no easy feat. Obviously, for years before the past roughly 6 years or so, the state was not meeting that obligation, as we know, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And thankfully, we continue to get bipartisan support for this 55%, widespread bipartisan support. So please thank your legislators for continuing to meet that state funding obligation. Another piece that was included in this budget that's going to impact districts across the state is an increase to the minimum teacher salary. So what was included in this bill were phased increases. So by next fall, the fall of 2027, 2028. So this isn't this upcoming school year, but the next school year, the minimum teacher salary will increase to $45,000. It will then go up to 47.5 by 2028, 2029, and then all the way up to 50,000 by that 2029-2030 school year. The state will also be including state funds to help districts reach each threshold. This is similar to what happened when the state moved to the $40,000 minimum teacher salary a few years ago. With basically, if your district is not at that number at that point each year, the state will provide funds to basically help you transition there for each year of that change. The other big change, and this has gotten probably the most press of anything, is the bell-to-bell cell phone ban that was proposed by the governor that did wind up getting included in that final supplemental budget provision. And this ban is set to go into place by August 1st of 2026. That is this fall. It specifically says that school boards must adopt a policy prohibiting student use of personal electronic devices during the school day. We've already done some work with the DOE and others and have shared out a sample policy as well. So please take a look at that. And if your district is not there yet, now is a great time. You'll need to be making those changes over the course of the next few months in order to change your policies. The DOE will also be supplying about $350,000 to help with implementation, things like storage solutions. I'm sure we'll be getting more details about that in the months to come. We also wanted to include $5.9 million was included in the supplemental budget to retrofit school buses. This came about following those tragic deaths of two students due to bus accidents that did occur. And funding was included in this budget to do two things: to retrofit buses with school bus crossing arms, and also to work to implement door sensors as well. And the goal of this is to ensure that every school bus across Maine especially has those crossing arms. Hopefully we'll be making students and the atmosphere around school buses even safer in every school district across Maine. So we're really encouraged to see that. This will help to ensure student safety from really the moment that kids board the bus each morning. A few other provisions that we did want to mention to you as well. There was $8 million included in the supplemental budget for districts with high rates of economically disadvantaged students. This was rates above 40%, at least 40%. They received some additional funding actually for this upcoming school year, and the DOE has already shared out information about that. But it's important to remember that $8 million was included. $2 million was included for the Building Assets Reducing Risks program, and I'm sure we're all aware of that. The state has really been investing in that for many years now. This program intended to really help to promote student achievement, help to promote student attendance. This has now been implemented in dozens of districts across the state. However, there are some districts currently that are in currently being trained in this model, and we're set to run out of money to finish that training. So the state was able to allocate an additional $2 million to this program in order to ensure that those schools can finish. And we've really seen schools have success for this, so we were glad to see this. And then a few other areas as well. So about $200,000 was also provided to allow for some AI professional development in schools. This was a recommendation of the state's task force on artificial intelligence, which met and worked together to supply recommendations for where our state should be moving when it comes to AI. And then also the supplemental budget included the provisions of a bill LD 2064. This was a bill that came about from Senator Matty Daughtry, the Senate president. And basically what this was doing is it was creating a grant program in order to help private pre-K partners. So we have a lot of districts with their own pre-K programs, but as the state continues to expand pre-K programs, more districts are partnering with private partners because they simply don't have the capacity at their local public schools, and it really requires kind of working together with those local private pre-Ks. However, it came out Senator Daughtry, talked with a lot of these partners and found out that the universal school meals that all of our schools have, these kids in these private pre-Ks were unable to take advantage of that because of some administrative barriers as well. So this program is going to create a grant program for districts that do contract with these private pre-K providers in order to ensure that they can provide those meals moving forward, to ensure that there is really those universal school meals. And just as a note, these budget provisions, as well as many of the other bills we're going to talk about today, they all will go into effect approximately 90 days after the legislative session, which is July 29th of 2026. Also, some of the bills designated as emergency legislation if they're designated emergency, those actually go into effect right away. So we'll talk about one bill, LD 2192. That bill has already gone into effect, but the vast majority of these won't go into effect technically until July 29th. They will be officially enacted until that day. So we wanted to touch on the big major bills. So obviously lots happened in the supplemental budget, but then we also have some other major bills. So arguably the largest one was LD 2226. This was a bill that did some reform for the EPS school funding formula. These are changes that will take effect next year. This will be taking effect in the 2027-2028 school year. And this will make three big changes. So first of all, it will update the regional adjustment in the formula. So this will move to a cost of living index. It will align the formula with the state's minimum teacher salary. It'll add approximately about $40 million in new state subsidy, and will really work to help to move things up when it comes to labor markets, because the current formula, what we've been using, hasn't been updated for decades and has really fallen out of line with what Maine's labor markets actually look like. This will correct that. This will add a lot more money into the formula, which should help out a lot of local districts who have really had to take on a lot of these costs themselves. It will also move to what's called a 90-10 ability to pay model. We've talked about this already, but what this will do is that it will, right now, when we are determining a school community's ability to pay, right now, what is really looked at 100% is the property values in that community. And there's been brought up how that might not actually reflect what a community can really pay. So this new model will include 10% of that ability to pay will Also look at the number of economically disadvantaged students in that community, which a lot of folks have argued kind of helps to create a fairer picture rather than solely focusing on those property values. And then what's really key here is that the Education Committee, the legislature, also included a hold harmless provision in here. So no district will lose funding because of these two changes for at least 3 years. And then there will be a slow transition over an additional 3 years. So really working to make sure that districts have time to plan, really working to make sure that, there is a transition into these changes. Then it's important to note too, MEPRI is going to continue studying EPS, looking at potential changes to special ed funding, as well as other changes as well. And it's important to remember that it really was superintendents who really came around on this, school board members who really advocated hard for this. And that's what really did help to make this possible. So we were pleased to see that this moved forward. Some other major changes we wanted to highlight. So LD 2175, this did pass already, and this is codifying the new State Board of Education rules for teacher credentialing. And specifically, it will allow more flexibility and introduce for the first time a portfolio pathway, which we really believe is going to help out career changers, out-of-state educators, and teachers seeking new endorsements and help to really cut down some of those administrative barriers that exist, really helping to strengthen our teaching professions. We are really happy to see about that one. And then we also wanted to make you aware of also LD 2192. This is a bill on investigations into school employee misconduct. And this makes several notable changes to that. We've already sent out some guidance to superintendents regarding this, but if you are not a superintendent, if you hadn't had a chance to see what is kind of being changed here, this is expanding the definition of a covered investigation. This is requiring more reporting to the DOE through the process. This is requiring investigations get completed even when an employee leaves, and it also helps to set up a new kind of records check before a superintendent, a school district hires an employee. They will now have to kind of go to the DOE as well. So several notable changes, and we're working to get out guidance. On our end, we're also working to do more training and offer more resources to schools around this, because these are notable changes. And then MSMA will also be part of a working group to continue working to help to improve this process going forward. And we would be eager to hear from you if you have any questions, any potential changes you would like to see to help to strengthen this process moving forward. And then we've got many other bills that did pass. I'm going to just highlight a few because I could be here for hours if I'm really going through all of these. But we did want to just highlight a few of these bills. And you can take a look. We put together an online resource that I'll link in our comments as well, where you can keep track of all of these, get links to them. But we just want to highlight some of them. So there were some bills passed around school curriculum. So there were 3 bills passed. They actually passed the legislature last year, but they were officially signed and funded this legislative session by the governor. So the ones that did pass, so there was one that will integrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander history into Maine's learning results. That's LD 957, and we'll see that play out through the state board. We also have 2 other bills as well around strengthening some curriculum resources. So one is going to require the DOE to create new professional development opportunities in African American studies. And then another bill is working to strengthen Wabanaki studies in Maine, to add more resources at the state level, more funding for professional development, and to work to have more statewide implementation, really look at how that's going in terms of implementing Wabanaki studies as well. So those were included. Some other bills that did pass, there was one around AED access, those automated external defibrillators. That won't go into effect until the 2027-2028 school year, but it will require some changes in terms of AED access. There were also changes to mandated reporting, where it's expanding some definitions, expanding things to now say all school personnel will be mandated reporters. It'll make some changes to training as well. We're expecting more guidance on that moving forward. And then there was also bills providing more funds for mental health grants and behavioral and mental health services. We know how crucial that work is right now with the mental health needs of our students. We were pleased to see that there was some funding devoted to that work in LD 858. A few other bills that we wanted to highlight to make sure you're aware of. So LD 54, this is a bill that will require employers actually in job posting. This is all employers with more than 10 employees. So this will include, virtually all schools will have to include a somewhat of a pay range in their job openings. And there are different definitions of what this looks like. You could read kind of the full language of the bill, but will require kind of including a rough pay range in a bill in their job postings. Obviously, the vast majority of school employees are CBAs, are covered under CBA's collective bargaining agreement, so they already have kind of set amounts there, but there may be requirements to make some potential changes to job postings as well because of this bill. There's also a bill, LD 2015, that's going to require schools as part of their kind of annual reporting to the DOE to report on educator vacancies. And this is something that a lot of superintendents really pushed for because they felt like it was really vital for the state to actually know the size of our teacher shortage at the state. We really don't right now. And so we feel like this is going to really help with that process. A few other bills we wanted to note as well very quickly. LD 2199. This is a bill on early college. And this bill will set a lifetime cap. And this has kind of already been implemented, but this just kind of cements it on state subsidized early college credits, among other changes to the early college program. This was really happening because basically there was very limited money. Basically, this early college program has expanded so much with limited resources, and so they're having to put a cap on these credits. This is concerning for some rural schools. They do have some concerns about this. However, this cap will expire in 2 years and will likely, in those 2 years after that, work to really try to encourage more funding for early college because we know how important that is for so many students, especially those in our rural communities who really have benefited from that. LD 2106, this bill also passed. This is a bill around immigration enforcement, and it's going to specify this isn't just about schools, but also about other places such as libraries, other areas like that, and basically saying that schools will not be allowed to voluntarily consent to law enforcement entry of specific non-public areas because of immigration enforcement. We're going to be getting much more information about this. The AG's office will be working to publish model policies, so more will likely be coming out about this in the coming months, but wanted to make sure folks were aware. And then also we wanted to highlight LD 2109. This is a bill around tuition to private schools. So as we know, that we have some communities that don't have a public school, and some communities do kind of contract with local public schools, but others kind of allow for parents to choose where to send their kid and can go to any of the approved public or private schools nearby. This bill will specify that private schools that do receive public tuition funds, they must be located in Maine. However, it does give a slight exemption for students who are currently enrolled in out-of-state schools. This only really applies to a couple students, but says you're allowed to stay basically at that school through graduation. But then moving forward, students will not be allowed to use those private tuition or those public tuition dollars at private schools outside of Maine. They just also wanted to highlight there's a lot of legislative studies that passed as well, and the DOE and many other stakeholders, including us, will be involved in these. Just highlights of a few. There will be some on secondary school math requirements, teacher mentoring programs, personal finance, de-escalation and behavior intervention, the use of technology in the classroom and related safeguards as well. So there's going to be a lot of different work going on about a lot of different bills. This will be occurring some within just the summer into the fall. We'll be seeing these studies kind of continue, but some will go even longer than a year. So we will work to keep you updated as these studies really get underway and share more details with you, as we expect the DOE to also share details with you as well. So next steps. So those are pretty much all the bills that did pass. And I should say that the one area that we were disappointed didn't see much progress on was school construction. There was a bill that we were really hoping was going to make it through, but cost quite a bit of money. It wasn't able to get off the ground. And so we were disappointed to see that. But we know that school construction is going to be a big issue moving forward. Those needs are not going away for our schools. So this is going to be a point of advocacy for our organization moving forward, continuing to push for more funds for school infrastructure here in Maine. So what can you do as a superintendent or a school board member to advocate? So we would advocate that you should really work to connect with your legislators before the next session. Now is really the best time for it. Legislators are finally done with their work in Augusta. They are heading back home. Many of them are probably going to take a break for a little bit, but now is a great time to really work to set up a meeting, calling those legislators saying, hey, what are you doing? Having, and maybe inviting them to a visit to your school in September when school gets underway, showing them innovative programs that you may have going on or really exciting projects or programs that you certainly have. This is a great time to do that. So really try to make that a part of your to-do list is, hey, would love to add you to our, we're inviting our legislators, would love to get you involved, come to a school board meeting, come visit a school. It's a great opportunity to do that right now. And we have a legislator lookup tool on our website if you want to use that to find your local legislators. In addition, you can also request a legislative workshop from us. If your school board is interested in getting more involved legislatively, I will come out there. I will visit your board in person or virtually, and we can do a presentation all about legislative advocacy as well. So just reach out to us to learn more. Thank you so much for all of your work over the course of this legislative session. We've had some really positive moves as well. And if you want to keep track of everything, you can head to our legislative dashboards. We'll have links in the comments here. And then also we have an individual page specifically about bills that were passed during this legislative session. So keep those in mind. And we look forward to talking with you. Probably a bit of a break going forward, but we look forward to talking with you in the fall and into the next legislative session. Thank you so much.